My age is 34 years old. Please do something." I spoke out in great desperation. But neither my husband nor my mother-in-law paid me any attention, not even glancing at me covered in blood. I call myself Carla Brown. Their priorities seemed to be more the dog that bit me and the state of the floor. Having nowhere else to turn, I phoned an ambulance by myself and was driven away alone. I kept crying in the ambulance during the ride. A bit later, my hubby phoned. Desperate in voice, he kept yelling, "Hey, get the ambulance back." "Mother." 4 years ago, a friend almost dragged me almost forcefully to a mixer claimed to be a drinking party with government officials. "Carla, you're coming." I met Oliver, my husband, 7 years my junior, there. My mother teaches physical education, and my father instructs judo. Growing up in a sports-oriented home with 3 elder brothers all with black belts in judo, I developed a rather tomboyish attitude. Oliver, on the other hand, was exactly opposite me. He stammered over his words during the toast and had misaligned 1 buttons on his shirt when we first met. Though he seemed to strive hard and still couldn't quite get things right, he was a kind man, not a horrible person at all. Oliver had this appealing quality, and it set off my mother instincts. We visited several dates. I was the one who proposed we start dating. Oliver consistently calmed my typically restless demeanor. I wanted to be with him always, before I knew it. Then, on our first anniversary of dating, I boldly said to him, "I'll take care of you for the rest of your life, so let's get married." Oliver answered, tears in his eyes, "That's supposed to be my line." I appreciate it all. Let us keep looking after one another. And we chose to be married in that manner as well. Oliver was utterly scared of my strict father and my 3 brothers when he first met my parents at our pre-wedding meeting. Oliver answered loudly, "Yes, as my mother remarked, there's no need to be so scared, you know." His voice faltered, though, and the entire family started laughing. "He seems a bit unreliable," my father observed, "but it looks like he truly put a lot of thought into the gifts he brought, and I can tell he really loves Carla, which makes me happy too." It was time to welcome Oliver's family after finishing the greetings with my family. Oliver says his father died of cancer 5 years ago. Oliver's parents battled infertility, and 8 years of marriage later they at last had Oliver. Usually I'm not the kind to become apprehensive, but on this particular day I felt really tense. I worried a lot on the trip to see my mother-in-law. Should she dislike me, what then? What if my greeting to her falls short? Should she find the age difference objectionable, what then? Oliver, generally not particularly comforting, said it just that, "Don't worry. I believe you will find it simple to communicate with my nice mother. She is well known in the area as the perpetually smiling woman." Truly, that helps me to feel somewhat better. And nobody could possibly hate you, Carla. His comments made me feel better. We rang the doorbell when we got at his family house. "Nice to meet you. I am Carla. I much appreciate you allowing the time to meet with me today." Warmly smiling, his mother responded, "Oh my, you must be Carla. One is not obliged to be so formal. Come visit." She wore a lovely dress and exuded a sophisticated, understated attitude. Regarding the age difference, which most troubled me, she said, "What are you talking about? Age has very no bearing at all. Oliver's wife will be someone like you, thereby making me very happy." Against my expectations, she seemed not to give the age gap any thought at all. She answered everything I said with tremendous energy, and I had a great time. The discussion changed to one about a poodle my mother-in-law owned. "Look at this. It is really lovely. I owned this dog while still in elementary school. Though it died with age, this was a smart and friendly dog." My husband interrupted her, remembering, "Mom, Carla is actually not fond of dogs." Carla, you don't like dogs, Beth said. Indeed, quite true. Though I'm a tomboyish person, I actually get terrified of dogs. I was ball playing in the park with my brother when I was a small youngster. The ball sailed far away, and when I went alone to get it, a stray dog nipped my arm. I had to have 4 stitches and it ended up bleeding a lot. Since then, it has been a terrible experience for me, and I have developed dog phobia. Oh my, I had no idea that happened, Beth said. I'm really sorry for bringing up dogs when you find them terrifying. No, I apologize for causing you concern. The picture included a particularly adorable poodle. Hearing my words, Beth grinned and added, "Thank you. Your mother is really beautiful, kind, and a wonderful person," I told my husband on the drive home. I know, exactly. My mother has such a soft demeanor and always beams. That's really wonderful. Her mother is quite beautiful. We carried on animatedly discussing her. My hubby then turned serious quite suddenly. Actually, I would want to discuss something with you. You know how we went to see my family house today? Sure, that house was really large. I found myself somewhat taken aback. Exactly. Designed with my mom in mind, my dad made sure everything was handy for her while he was still living. The house also features 3 rooms for 3 youngsters in case they grew more numerous. But as an only child, they were never really utilized. Mom is now living there alone and finds it to be too large and isolative. So I started wondering, what if we shared a house with her? His unexpected offer startled me. My eyes went wide in shock. True, the house was somewhat large, and given my mother-in-law's careful nature, it was kept flawlessly. Owning such a house would be a dream. But we are newlyweds, hence it feels a little too soon for that. Thinking for a while, I responded, "Your mother is a wonderful person, and the house is so beautiful, but it feels like too much for me. But just now we just got married. I would want to savor our newlywed life, just the 2 of us, for a little more." You are correct, as seen here. I grasp. I'll inform her, Mom. Yes, I apologize. Kindly guide her carefully in explaining it. Though I felt a little ashamed of Beth, I also understood that it was crucial to communicate my own emotions and sincerely rather than only following norms. That my hubby seemed to grasp and agree with me relieved me. Then our joint married life started. Oliver still had his awkward times, but he actively pitched in with housework, and we were living a contented, seamless existence. Still, lately I have been a bit bothered by something. Oh, hello, Mom. Ah, understood. I am on my way right now. Your mom once more. Indeed, the living room light bulb burned out. I will walk over and replace it. And off he headed to visit his parents. It has lately been this way all the time. Mom purchased a new computer, but she is having problems configuring it. I am going over to assist. Or Mom requested me to come pick her up as she seemed to have bought too many things at the grocery. I'm going to assist her. Weekdays or weekends, the phone would ring, and Oliver would return more and more often back to his parents' house. Thinking he could at least spend the weekends at home with me, I started to feel a bit depressed. Simultaneously, though, I considered Oliver is just a kind and considerate person who cares greatly for his mother. 1 month has gone since our wedding. Our days were quiet, and we had no significant conflicts, much as when we were dating. Faith is celebrating her birthday today. We headed to my husband's parents with a present and cake that we had decided upon ahead of time. A dog sprang out just as we walked into the home. What? Asked. I startled myself by widening eyes. When we arrived for the wedding welcome, there had not been a dog here. Afraid of dogs, I hid behind my husband automatically. Later, Beth emerged from the living room. Oh, greetings. Hello. Mom, from where came this dog? Well, I legally started keeping a puppy since I was lonely living alone. Is it not adorable? That little dog was a Welsh corgi. Ha, I see. Startled by the dog that had sprang out, I forced a grin in spite of my anxiety, without realizing how uncomfortable I felt. Come on, Carla, why don't you hold it? She carried the dog straight up to me. I mentioned this when we came for the wedding greeting, but I was bitten by a dog when I was younger, and since then, I'm afraid of them, I said, stepping back. I graciously turned down, holding the dog. Oh, did you say as such? She answered, acting to be ignorant, not knowing. But it's so adorable. You are a weird person. Her face seemed to be somewhat smiling. I started to wonder if Beth was snarky toward me for the first time. Ever then, anytime my husband would say, Mom wants to see you, or let's go visit my mom, I would think, I want to see her too, but I'm really not good with dogs, and started to decline. The smile Beth displayed upon seeing me uncomfortable that day still haunts me. After ending work as usual and returning home, a month later I discovered my mother-in-law living at the house. What? Why are you then? She greeted me with much delight. Oh, welcome home. She had walked herself into the kitchen, opening the refrigerator and cooking as though nothing were unusual. Why did you drop over so quickly? My darling, Oliver told me he wanted my homemade stew, so I just had to come. She was humming to herself, clearly thrilled by her son's ask. Oh, I see. I tried my best to grin, but given her dog was in the living room, it was difficult not to feel uneasy. Worse, she had fed the dog, and the dish it was licking clean was my favorite antique plate, one I had purchased from a flea market in France. Who could possibly greet such a state of affairs? I went to get my coat and baggage alone from my room. I reminded myself I shouldn't become agitated. Beth came all this way. I inhaled deeply to cool off and went back to the living room. The dog had mess on the living room carpet, horrifyingly. No way, the brand new carpet turned yellow. Oh my, the puppy on the carpet. Panic drove me to yell out to her, but she exhibited no sympathy. Oh dear, it made a mess right there, she remarked, not even cleaning the mess or disciplinizing the dog. I ended up cleaning the carpet myself, as I knew that, if I left it, the stain would set in. To tell honest, what is this? Usually calm, I too felt somewhat annoyed. Then I heard the door opening to indicate my spouse had come home. Reactive to the sound of the door, the dog began to bark loudly. Woof, woof, and persisted in barking until my husband came into the living room. For me, even the sound of the barking is horrific. The dog calmed down, and I felt somewhat comforted once it confirmed that my husband had entered. We three gathered around the table to savor the stew Beth had created. Neither my mother-in-law nor husband put the dog in its cage throughout supper. Thus it started to stray about our feet as though searching for leftovers. Beth said, You really aren't fond of dogs, are you, Carla? Your face contracted in terror, and you started shaking. You seem to be really terrified. I wanted to help you overcome your fear of dogs, so I brought the dog today. How could any of this help me overcome my fear of dogs? Bring the dog here without asking, let it stain the carpet, and have it bark at me. If anything, it intensified my dislike of them. I was shouting in my thoughts, If you truly care, simply put the dog in a cage or some distance from me. But my husband seemed totally blind to my suffering. Mom is so friendly. She is truly attempting to assist you, Carla. How kind is this? She is torturing me while merely acting to show concern. But you, Carla, this isn't okay. He began lecturing me. What? I'm the one making mistakes. Mom has gone out of her way to do all this for you, yet still you avoid the dog. The dog prevents you even from visiting my parents' place. You are not exerting enough effort. Perhaps since his mother was standing there, my husband started to criticize me more fiercely than usual. I apologize. I had to confess in front of my mother-in-law without choice. I bit my lip, controlling the irritation. Beth then began regularly visiting our place with her dog always in tow. The dog would mess around the house each time, but Beth would ignore it. She seemed not intending to correct it. These visits were causing me growing stress. When I thought I had reached my limit one day, I plucked the bravery to tell her, "Please, I've told you many times that I'm frightened of dogs. Would kindly stop bringing the dog with you?" Her face immediately turned angry, and she yelled, "I've been thinking for a while now. Are you using your fear of dogs as an excuse to avoid me?" Carla, that is appalling. I had never mentioned anything like that. Not sure what she meant, I was really stunned. That my husband sided with her startled me even more. Carla, that is excessive. Though you have been avoiding her, my mother was thinking of you. That's really nasty. I'm sorry to her. Oliver, Beth, you too know I have dog phobia. And still you bring the dog here every time it messes anything. Things is me that needs to tidy things. This is just too much. At least let me enjoy my time with the dog, my mother-in-law muttered and wrinkled her nose. What damage is there? You are already too old to have children anyway. I startled myself. Is that what you actually believe? Is it not true? You are already 34. It must be more difficult for you to conceive at your age. Still, my kid is only 27 and has a long future ahead. But thanks to you, his older conceited wife. She began mumbling grievances. She had once told me age was nothing. Finding her actual sentiments astonished me. I couldn't stand to let her remain any more, and it hurt even worse. Please never visit here again. Tears filling my eyes, maybe offended by what I said, she answered, "How dare you? You indeed are a haughty wife." She left also carrying her dog. That day on, I started to develop increasing contempt for my mother-in-law and spouse. Our relationship has been tense and we have not been communicating much ever after my husband defended his mother and blamed me. My hubby walked up to me one weekend looking serious. "Carla, I'm apologies. I was also mistaken. I ought to have given your emotions more thought." Oliver, thinking he at last felt what I did, I felt relieved. "Let's go apologize to Mom now," he said then. "What?" Asks why would we engage in such. Was I mistaken that day? It's not about who's right or wrong. Keep Mom from being enraged. Please just apologize. My husband ultimately understood nothing at all. His only concern was not at all my emotions. He drove me to my parents' house against will. Beth was waiting for me standing with her hands on her hips when we got there. Beth, I'm sorry about the other day." Just to cool her off, I said as her husband had asked. "I'll forgive you if you hold the dog," she replied then. That's it. With this individual, I cannot reason. I attempted to meet her halfway several times and apologized even though I wasn't in the wrong. But this is her reaction. As I have said many times, I cannot do that, I said coldly and firmly. Furious over my rejection, my mother-in-law shoved the dog toward me. I pushed the dog away automatically, but in reaction to my scream, the shocked dog bit my hand. It suffers. My hand soaked in blood really fast. Please do something. I begged my mother-in-law and husband, but Beth answered, well, anyone would be scared by such a tremendous boom. Negative event. Shockingly, my spouse was looking to see if the floor was dirty, worrying just about the dog. I completely disgusted both of them since none of them showed any care for me. Not even among all this would the bleeding from my hand stop. Having shooed the dog away, I decided to contact an ambulance on my phone. A little later, the ambulance showed up. Laughing, my mother-in-law said, Oh, come on. You're acting quite theatrically merely for a dog bite. With a scornful look, my husband stayed exactly checking the floor even as the ambulance arrived, not changing his attitude at all. Ignoring these terrible people, I pushed my quivering, bleeding palm, then boarded the ambulance. Never have I felt